Hello, I will be explaining the new opportunities to work and study in Denmark since April 1st. Denmark has facilitated several of its rules for foreign workers and students to work in the country, in a bid to attract more of both groups. The changes, which have been previously warned by Opulentus Europe desk, took effect on April 1st, after the Danish Parliament approved the amendments to the Aliens Act last month, on March 23rd. According to EU Commission's data on the labour market in Denmark, in 2022, 42% of companies had reported challenges in recruiting workers, in particular for engineers and specialists in the IT, biotechnology, pharmaceutical and financial sectors, as well as doctors and nurses. Opulentus Europe desk has listed and simply explained the new changes to the Danish Aliens Act for foreign workers and students. New supplementary pay limit scheme for those offered a salary of at least DKK 375,000 introduced. Since April 1st, those who have been offered a job in Denmark with a yearly salary of at least DKK 375,000 can apply for a residence and work permit under the newly created supplementary pay limit scheme. In order to be eligible to move for work to Denmark under this scheme, the following conditions must also be met. A salary of at least DKK 375,000 which must be paid into a Danish bank account. The offered job position must have been posted on Jobnet and the YOURS portal. The offered terms of employment must correspond to Danish standards. Working hours must be at least 37 hours a week. The job offered cannot be encompassed by a legal labour conflict. The applicant has not received a fine of DKK 3,000 or more under the Danish Criminal Code or the Aliens Act. In some cases, the applicant must have a Danish authorization or a temporary authorization for employment for adaptation and training purposes. At the same time, in order for foreigners to be able to come to Denmark under this scheme, the seasonally adjusted gross unemployment must not be over 3.75% on average in the 3 months before applying. New fast-track scheme and more certified companies for bringing foreign workers to Denmark. The country has also added a new track to the fast-track scheme, which enables certified companies to recruit foreign employees to work in Denmark through a faster and more flexible way. The newly added track is the supplementary pay limit track, under which qualify non-EU nationals who are offered a job position by a certified company with an annual salary of at least DKK 375,000. This means that now the 5 tracks are: the pay limit track, the supplementary pay limit track, the short-term track, the researcher track, the educational track. At the same time, more companies will be able to get certification for bringing foreign workers to Denmark under this scheme. So far, in order to qualify for it, companies had to have at least 20 workers. The number has now been reduced to only 10 workers. With a certification, it is possible for a company to employ highly qualified foreign nationals without having to wait for Siri to complete processing the application, Denmark explains, adding that the scheme also gives foreign employees the freedom to work alternately in Denmark and abroad without losing their permit. Currently, there are 781 companies hiring foreigners under this scheme in Denmark. More professionals can now work in Denmark under the positive list for people with a higher education. The Danish authorities have decided to make it possible for the unemployment insurance funds, A-Kasse, that are members of the Danish Trade Union Confederation to add job positions to the country's positive list for people with a higher education. The latter is a list that consists of 40 professions for which there is a shortage of qualified workers in Denmark. To qualify to move to Denmark under this list, a foreigner must have the educational background that qualifies him/her for the specific position the same is applying for. A job offer in that profession is mandatory before starting the procedures to get a Danish work visa. According to the new changes, the regional labour market councils, RAR, will also be able to add job positions to this list whenever they establish that there is a shortage of labour for the added professions on a regional level. Startup Denmark scheme now includes branches of foreign companies. Startup Denmark is a scheme for third country nationals, individuals and groups of up to 3 people, who wish to obtain residence permits by establishing a business in Denmark. The new amendments to the Alien Act now have made it possible for owners of companies that are based in third countries to open a branch in Denmark under this scheme and apply for a Danish residence permit through it. It has also been made possible now for those who have arrived in Denmark on a different residence permit and have later established a successful business, to change their residence permit to one under the Startup Denmark scheme. Postgraduates can now stay to seek a job for 3 years. Students who complete a Danish professional bachelor, master, or PhD program, can now stay to seek a job in Denmark for 3 years instead of 6 months as it has been so far. Before you apply, please make sure that your educational program is approved by a state authority and check whether your current residence permit already includes a job-seeking period, Opulentus Help Desk advises. The 6-month validity of a job seeker residence permit will remain for other higher education programs.